The impossible dream job. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the focus group. Tim Bennett here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Be sure to join us here each Wednesday or whenever you decide to tune in, either via our audio stream or our video cast, which you're watching right now. Find out more about us and all about us and download all of our media at focusgroupradio.com, including our podcast, TFG Unbuttoned. So, Mr. Nash, how are you?
I am good. I have a few things to report. Before we started recording, I mentioned that earlier in the week, Donald Trump claimed that we should be paid as being the guardians of the Strait of Hormuz. Oh. You know, I thought this was all about the nuclear program, and then it was about something else, and then it was about something else. And then Marco Rubio recently said, we just want to get back to the way it was before he started this whole crazy thing. But on a happier note, Tim, we went to 54 Below last week, and Tim knows this is we do a supper club, like a cabaret supper club in Manhattan on 54th Street and 8th Avenue. And Tim and I have been there with Richard and Bob, and we saw Cheetah Rivera. You've seen other acts there too, right?
I've seen Marilyn May. Yes. Christine Ebersol.
Okay, I saw Marilyn May with you as well, and she, oh my God. Because she came on the show that weekend.
She was
too,
on the
right?
show, yeah.
Okay, so we saw a cabaret act that I've been following on Instagram called Liberace and Liza, a tribute. It's these two performers, and they channel Liberace and Liza Minnelli. We were sitting close to the stage. He comes out in that, like with a cape, the glitter costume, the hair, the rings on the hand. The guy that plays Liberace is not only hilariously affecting him with everything, he's also incredibly talented piano player, and he plays in the style of Liberace. And Liza comes out, and she's doing all these crazy things, and it's kind of like the almost stereotypical idea of what you think Liza and Lee would be, but they did. You nailed it exactly. They did an incredible act from start to finish. There's one moment where Liberace plays chopsticks, his famous ding, 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 and he goes in this big thing, and we're sitting so close so we could see him on the piano, the ring, the hand coming up. Everything was Liberace to the T. We couldn't stop laughing. At one point,
Bob must have had a meltdown. Bob must
was
have been
having
in his glory.
Ball. So there's one point where they were talking about the many movies that Liza Minnelli had been in. They asked the audience, and they're like, Cabaret, Arthur, and they start naming a bunch of movies. And he goes, I've been in some movies myself. And we were about to scream the movie Sincerely Yours. He was in a movie called Sincerely Yours. He says Sincerely Yours. Our table goes crazy. We start laughing and clapping. He goes, I got a table of 4 right here who knew I was in that movie. We had dinner beforehand. It actually arrived when they started performing, but we were not so pleased about that. But the food was delicious. It was fine. Some cocktails. The show flew by, an hour and 15 minutes, maybe hour and 10, like 75-minute show. They did a little encore. If you have a chance to see them, the act again is called Liberace and Liza, a tribute. They did so well. They just got back from England. They're going back to the West End and Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And then they're back here in the U.S. And I was just looking at their tour dates. San Francisco is happening now. They're there now. And in Palm Springs in February of 2027. But I would see them again in a heartbeat. And if they do come around again, I'm going to insist that we try to figure out how to see them together.
Are they Brits or are they Americans? Are they Americans?
They're American.
Yeah. How was was it sold out or crowded or
packed
at 54 Below? Yeah, that's what I love about New York. New York is great for theater like that. I love when it's just full and the audience is there for fun, and it's just what were the tickets? How much were tickets?
I don't remember. Bob, I think they might have been over 100. They sold out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday completely. Like when we bought the tickets, Wednesday sold out. For some reason, the last night of their run was sold out. The place was packed. I will say this. We did look around carefully, and the age of the crowd was more like us. And I think that I saw younger guys there, younger people. They sometimes looked a little lost with some of the cultural references that were being made or some of the jokes.
Right.
And I'm wondering, this act works because you have to know Liberace and you have to know Liza Minnelli, right? And as each year, Mr. Showmanship ran the Las Vegas Strip. I mean, he owned Vegas for years. But if you go to Vegas today, you would never know that, right?
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of who you turned me on to, Little Edie. If you didn't understand Little Edie and you just came into it, whether it was the Broadway play, you'd be lost, right? You'd be totally lost.
It's Grey Gardens.
And it was the same for, we had known or we had watched Betty Davis movies, for instance, or Joan Crawford or Betty Davis movies. We weren't born of that time,
no,
but we were aware of the movies. And so it wasn't lost on us when you see somebody that does an impression of them or does bits with them that we've seen in P-Town or you've seen other places. But again, there's other people that are younger that may be lost on them. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why. I mean, I would think, to me, of course, you and I experienced this when we went to the Liberace Museum, that you and I were very much engaged in doing the interview and so forth. But there were some people that just, it was over their head, I think, in terms of Liberace and his impact on pop culture.
Yeah.
And his impact on pop culture. I mean, you and I even learned things out there where he told Elvis and Barbra Streisand and everybody about how to dress on stage, and the lights need to be on you. You don't go out there in black. You go out there in something different. The orchestra, all that sort of stuff that he had really did that influenced
pioneered.
People. Pioneered. That's a good word. And at the one time, the highest paid act in Vegas, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. Oh, like they would make jokes during this cabaret act about his brother George. George is at home with his mother. They would do this. We were howling with laughter because we knew what he was doing. But then you'd look at, there's a table that sat like diagonal to me, and it was 4 people. It was 2 couples. They didn't, they sit you at a table. Sometimes you don't know the people that you're with because it's just a seat. So there's these 2 guys that were younger. One of them looked like he might have been in his early 40s. One was definitely in his early 30s. And he was the one that would sometimes just cock his head and look, and everybody's roaring around him. But you know what I mean? It's like you are aware that there's a joke happening, but you're not getting the joke, but because it's culturally, out of your zone. But
he didn't get the joke. And then our friends Patrick and Howard, who of course, they had gone on that Liberace tour one time when it first opened, I guess, and they were with a bunch of friends. And one of the guides, did you hear this story?
No.
They had asked about, this is kind of a Lindsey Graham story, right? They kind of asked, or somebody in the tour group, it's a bunch of little old ladies in the whole group, and then all these gay guys, asked, one of the old ladies says, why didn't Liberace ever get married? And, right? Doing exactly what you did. So the guys are chuckling or whatever. And the tour guide, they said, without missing a beat, and Patrick or Howard may correct me, but essentially said something to the effect of, well, he was so famous and so well known that he was afraid if he was married and had children, they would be a kidnap risk. They said at that point, they busted out so hard, kind of like the Lindbergh baby. They were going to kidnap his baby. So he didn't want to do that, bring that upon the family. So he stayed single, confirmed bachelor.
My God. And that was bought hook, line, and sinker.
Well,
probably,
and,
right?
And I said, what did you guys do? He goes, well, after we stopped laughing, we just broke off from the tour and did our own little walk around.
After we stopped. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, hey, by the way, last week we talked about how the Atlantis cruise got denied entry into Turkey. Well, I don't know if you heard, they were also denied entry into Egypt.
Yeah, they were going to land at Alexandria, and they were denied entry. And, I just look at this and say, if you need any proof that the world is shifting in a very nasty way, just look at this. I mean, Egypt thrives on tourism. In fact, it's one of their only industries. I'm probably being insulting, and I don't mean to be, but
no,
it's a huge part of their economy is the tourism thing. And, I don't know.
I was just surprised because I thought, Atlantis, or it's Virgin Voyage Cruises, but Atlantis had
they had
contracted the ship or chartered the ship. I would have thought this would have all been taken care of before they were on the before they were set sail, right? I mean, I just think that's odd that it happened as they were en route. And they were showing the boat. I don't know if you saw the schematic. They were showing the boat doing turns around middle of the night, going to a different port or whatever. It's exactly what you said, though. Patty Lapone and a number of other people said if there's any more proof to the fact that things have changed, not in a good way, for acceptance and for human rights, that you need to pay attention to this. So it's
hard right turn.
Yeah. Well, particularly, if you were on that trip, and I know you've always had a fascination to want to go to Egypt.
Yeah.
But if you were on there and you thought, okay, this is great. We're going to go to Turkey. We're going to go to Egypt, places we've not been, we'd like to see. I'd be angry. Amongst other things. But yeah. And it's not like those boats have not been there before. That's the other thing. It's not like these cruises have never docked at either of these places in Egypt or Turkey. So it's a sad commentary, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So without further ado, Mr. Nash, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, I want to say that I was clickbaited.
Uh-oh.
I was going to say catfish, but I haven't been catfished. So I came across an article and I clipped it immediately, and I thought this is going to be what caught my eye. Man claims his cat got jury duty and he spent 6 weeks fighting to get out of it. So it says the Felix Martinez jury duty story was made up. I didn't read this until later, but a Boston cat named Sal really was summoned in 2009. So here's the deal. A story went out back in 2009, I think it was. It was about a gentleman whose cat got requested for jury duty. His name was Felix Martinez. Somehow the cat got on the voter rolls. His name appeared. He gets the thing. He tries to explain to the county clerk that it's a cat. He had a letter from a vet citing species-related limitations. The court rejected it anyway. It took physically bringing the cat to the courthouse to end it. A clerk looked into the carrier, realized what she was dealing with, and said, he's a cat. And then they traced it to a problem. Well, here's the thing. At the end of all of this, the author later said he made the whole story up. But the story stuck around as urban legend and resurfaces every couple of years, and the media just picks it up and goes. However, the reason it gets picked up again is because it actually did happen to a husband and wife in Boston in 2009. The couple named Anna and Guy Esposito received a jury summons for their cat, Sal, after listing him under pets on a city census form. Anna filed to have Sal disqualified on the grounds that he cannot speak English. The jury commissioner denied it. So this is the true story. She got a letter from Sal's vet confirming he was, in fact, a cat. Officials initially remained unconvinced. When they asked him guilty or not guilty, what's he supposed to say? Meow? Meow. Anna told local news at the time. Guy, for his part, told reporters Sal was a fan of crime shows and knows right and wrong, but still underqualified for jury duty. He was later excused. The story lay dormant for several years, and then HuffPost picked it up. And when HuffPost picked it up again, NPR, CBS, Daily Mail, all these people picked it up again and rehashed the whole story. So that's what caught my eye, was the fact that I was captured by man claims his cat got jury duty. He spent 6 weeks fighting to get it out. And then realizing that was actually clickbait or fake. And then it was actually backed up by a real story that happened, 2009. Actually, Tim, when we were going on the air for the first time. And it seems to resurface all the time. So I know it's a stupid caught my eye, but it made me laugh that I got, sucked into it.
No, those stories happen, right? They and with AI now and some of these other programs, it's difficult because you will find stories that are either old or they're resurface again. That's happened to me a few times when we do TFG Unbuttoned. I'll find stories and then I'll look at the date and it might be 4 years old or something. Or then I find, and somebody had just reposted it or there was an update to it. So yeah, you really have to look at those. But that would have caught my eye too if you read that. I mean, that's a great one. You had that happen, or you had an attorney tell you, I think, a story with New York State where they were trying to call in a Sherwin-Williams, wasn't it? The paint store. They were going to try to tax them. And,
that was from years ago, yeah.
And the person had to explain that was a store name. The store's name was Sherwin-Williams. There wasn't a Sherwin-Williams there to be taxed. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, that's a good one. Mine is I've got a great job for you, John. This is what caught my eye. It's Jeopardy is hiring a new clue writer. And one lucky nerd is going to get paid $178,000 a year to be a clue writer in Jeopardy. So they said this is a total dream job. They said for the first time in eons, the legendary game show Jeopardy is hiring a new clue writer. The ideal candidate must demonstrate wit and clarity, must also be able to pass the show's infamous contestant quiz, where topics range from geography to opera, science, superheroes, and sidekicks. They said that the gig will earn you about $178,000 a year. And it's one of the most impossible jobs to get, but one of those elite gigs that if you got it, you were just fortunate and lucky. They said scoring the job is harder than you would think. So if you want to apply for the job, first you have to go through their online quiz. So everybody can do this. You go through, so Clue members, first you have to submit to the Jeopardy quiz. So if you want to be a contestant, you go onto the online quiz.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So you have to go there and you get asked 50 questions and you only have 15 seconds to answer. Whoa. And you can either do it verbally or you can type it. It doesn't have to be what is. You don't have to do it in the form of a question for this, but you have to pass that test first. And then once you pass, if you pass that test, so that's the online test to be a guest, then you have to go to the next step, which is you have to create clues for 12 categories. So business, food, history, pop culture, science. You have to produce a number of clues for those categories. If you pass that, then you have to pen 3 final Jeopardy clues, and they have to be fact-checked and proven. Other than through AI or Wikipedia, you have to use some sort of other source to prove the final Jeopardy question. And then if you get that, then you'll get to join, or you'll likely be hired to join the cast. There's only 10 writers on the game show. They said it's a tight-knit team of brainiacs that includes a former Seinfeld actor, a Star Trek Voyager writer, and a one-time New York City doorman.
Oh, boy. Wow, okay.
So a doorman from New York City's even there. It's been 10 years since they've hired a new writer. As I said, it's just 10 people. The show started in 1984. It starts its 43rd season this August. If you think you can make it on the show's board, applications are now open at Sony Pictures. So you can go to Sony Pictures' website and apply. They said, but be careful, because if you start taking the test, or if you take the test, you better be ready and in peak performance, because you're only allowed to take it once. And if you fail, you cannot log back in and you cannot apply. So if you want to apply, you got to be ready to say, okay, I'm going to sit through these 50 questions and then go to the next level. So they said, only click on the link when your brain is at peak performance. You can only take the entry test once before getting buzzed out. Pretty hard gig to get, but kind of fun. I was going to try to just go to the website and see what it was. Of course, I missed the first question.
Did you actually look at the first question?
I did. It was a one-word title of the 2018 movie about Dick Cheney, who was played by Christian Bale.
Veep.
2018 movie. I didn't get it.
I see the poster too, because I remember when Christian Bale played him, but I don't. Do you know the answer?
I don't. I should type it in, or you can type it in if you want to see. But it was a 2018 movie about Dick Cheney. I want to say it was it Vice? No.
Well, that would be a good one, right?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. After I got it wrong.
You're right. You're dead right.
What was it?
Vice.
See, and it just came to my head.
Veep.
I should have done it. I did something
Veep,
like Yellow's Cheney, or I forget what I did. And I was
and guess what? The poster is yellow.
Yeah.
It's a black and white silhouette of him with the glasses, and it says Veep running down the side. Vice. Sorry, I said Veep, thinking of the Julia Louis-Dreyfus show on Showtime. It's those. Yeah. I just remember the other time you took a computerized test. So.
Oh well.
That was a different thing. That was a different thing, right?
Fell asleep.
Was that the GMATs or something, or the
GMATs? Yeah, it's GMAT. And I still remember the story. The first thing was reading comprehension. I just got off the plane from Hawaii.
Was it something about the dinosaurs?
About dinosaurs, exactly right. And I was like, I woke up with like a puddle of slime on my paper, and I hit the stupid submit button. And I think my score was a 20. I don't even think I got my name right. And Holly Raymer, remember Holly? She laughed and she laughed and she laughed, and it cost me $900 to do this whole test in class. I should have gone back and taken it again. I just never did. Stupid of me.
Yeah, but, you know, I just think the story stands as this hilarity. I mean, I guess it's the way you and I would approach this anyway. Like, it's a test. I'll do it right now.
Yeah. Well, I was convinced I was going to go to Penn. You know, I was going to go do this master's. Yep. In organizational leadership at Penn. And all I had to do was pass this, all I had to do was take the test. Quite frankly, they didn't really accept, or scores weren't necessary, but I thought it would be helpful. What a dummy. But anyway, did you ever think of going back to school?
Oh, I
know you did animation. Yeah. But do you ever think of going back to, I guess, more formalized or traditional school to get a master's?
I've looked at some classes where you can actually audit them, or there's another word I'm missing here, where you can take classes, but you're not pursuing a degree, but you're taking the class.
Yeah,
I've looked at that, and I've actually thought about it because I think it might be interesting and fun, but then I kind of like the steam peters out. I just remember doing
the
animation.
cost of it. Yeah, and the cost of it. With Penn, I remember talking to a person who ended up becoming a good friend of mine, but he was the dean of admissions, and we were talking, and I still remember we were at a little cafe in Philly, and I said, I think I'm going to do this, or whatever. He just looked at me, he goes, "Are you crazy?" And I was like, "Why?" He goes, "If you want to do it for yourself to say you did it and have the degree, it's one thing." He said, "But you're going to be paying it off." He said, "It's going to be $250,000. It's $125,000 a year."
Yep.
He said, "You're in your late 40s. It's another mortgage. Unless she says you have $250,000 laying around you can pay."
Never.
And he said, and it's not going to increase your salary. He said, "You've already reached a senior level at a top corporate company." He said, "You're not going to get paid more money." He said, "Some places it may be helpful to see Penn on your resume." He said, but he just kind of shrugged. He said, "That's what we run into all the time with parents now." He said, "They want to guarantee that if they send their kid to our school, that we're going to guarantee him a job on Wall Street." He goes, "You can't guarantee anybody a job anywhere."
No.
But that's what people want now with these. I read over the weekend, Syracuse University now with room and board and tuition. How much do you think?
Oh, it has to be 70 or 80,000 a year.
100.
100.
That's what they were saying. Yeah, 95
that is
to
up there
100,000.
with Northwestern. Oh my God.
I can't imagine sending now kids. Obviously, you get loans and all this other stuff, but that's still. Can you imagine getting out of school? And this is the big problem with the Biden administration trying to tackle. You get out of school with a couple $100,000 worth of debt. I mean, it's outrageous to think that you're going to be able to make those payments plus have an apartment plus. I don't know.
Am I mistaken? And you and I have talked about this before, but I believe my 4 years of education was about $45,000. Now, I got Pell Grants and some scholarships, and I did take some student loans out, but nothing. I mean, it doesn't even compare to what 1 year at some of these schools cost, right?
Yeah, no, the inflation in higher ed. The other thing, though, is the schools and the parents, who are actually our contemporaries, have done it to themselves. The dorms, I don't know if you've gone back to, well, you saw probably your niece at Skidmore or whatever, but the dorms are better than my first 2 or 3 apartments that these kids live in now. I mean, I lived in an old chair factory that had one outlet, and I brought an old fan, right? I mean,
I remember you used to describe the bathroom.
Oh, it was horrible. No, nothing on the doors. There was no privacy in the stalls or the toilets. One big room for a shower with 8 nozzle heads. It was like the military in the 20s or something. But Yeah, but now these kids are caught. They've got refrigerators in the room, and
Yep.
Wi-Fi,
Yep.
and cable, and little
Very different.
kitchenettes. Yeah. So anyway, that's why they cost so much. So, hey, our business birthday this week.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
I couldn't find much about this guy. July
Well, the name
14th,
is enough,
1895. Yeah, Rudolph Boysen. Charles Rudolph Boysen, born July 14th, 1895. He died at 55, November of 1950. He was an American horticulturalist who created the Boysenberry.
There you go.
Do you know what a boysenberry is made up of? It's three varieties of berries.
It's a cross between a raspberry, a blackberry, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about it. But I know raspberry's got to be one of them, right?
You're right. It's raspberry, blackberry, and loganberry.
Loganberry. Okay.
So three berries. So Boysen, he experimented with various berry crosses in Napa, California in the early 20s. Then he moved to Orange County, and he had brought the berry vines with him and planted them on his in-laws' farm in Anaheim, or outside Anaheim. And he worked for the City Parks organization up until he died. And but in early 1923, he grafted together the raspberry, blackberry, and loganberries, and lo and behold, had created a plant that bared fruit. And so it was the variety or the hybrid of those three berries, but nobody was interested in it. So he tried to sell it. He tried to get people interested in it. No one was interested in the berry. They told him it had no commercial success when he contacted some other large growers or whatever. So he abandoned the idea of the crop, and he broke his back. And so he broke his back, and he just was like, I'm done. It's 1927. And he took his specimens to a place called Coolidge Rare Plant Nursery in Altadena, and just kind of forgot about it. So continued working at the parks for the parks in Anaheim. And years later, he gets called from a guy named Walter Knott. So this grower named Walter Knott calls him and heard about this plant he had created, this hybrid. And he asked Boysen if he would be interested in helping him out. So they found a couple of dying vines back at the farm where he planted this and gave them to Knott, which we now know as Knott's Berry Farm. And
Jim, this
Buena
business
Park,
birthday is
California.
like a gold mine of strange information, right?
Yeah, so this guy, Walter Knott's a grower, heard about this hybrid, tracks down Boysen, and he's like, well, I've got a couple of dying vines that are just holding on that I planted. And he takes them and he creates a business for this and ends up in his honor naming it the Boysenberry in honor. So Knott's Berry Farm starts growing these and calls it the Boysenberry in honor of Charles Boysen. He died at 55. He's buried in the Anaheim area in the cemetery. They said there's also a number of places around California, Anaheim, that has Boysenberry Lane, or there's a Boysen Avenue, a number of places in his honor. They did say that, and as a nice tribute that most people don't know about, there's actually a garden of desert plants that he collected over 100 years ago during many trips to Arizona and Mexico that are planted in Pearson Park in Anaheim. That people know there's a garden there, and these plants are still thriving and living 100 plus years later in the park there. But I thought it was funny. Walter Knott gets some dead vines, brings them back to life, and then creates Knott's Berry Farm, which and
A
and
business
names the fruit,
empire, right?
The Boysenberry, the Boysenberry. So I
know,
always
I
like
someti-
boysenberry jam. I used to get boysenberry jam a lot.
Because it's got a great flavor, right?
Yeah.
It takes the best of those three. Sometimes with the business birthday, I puzzle over things like with Charles Rudolph Boysen. I puzzle and it's no way of knowing this unless they actually printed it. He dies at the age of 55. I wonder what his estate was actually worth. It sounds like a career that, was waylaid by the broken back and this didn't take off the way he thought it would until this other thing happened. But you got to wonder, right?
No, that's a good point. I probably should have checked that out because a lot of times
you can check it,
Yeah, a lot of times I check up on these things, and people, particularly people who have invented or people who have created or founded, end up with not much.
That's
comparatively. Unlike, did you hear the latest as a sidebar? Rosie O'Donnell, how much money she had on the bank when she quit her talk show?
I saw an article that said when she stopped the talk show, she had this number. I didn't read further. How much was it?
$100 million. And she said her advisor, she was getting kind of tired of the show and wanted to spend more time with her kids because she had since had a number of kids and family and wanted to spend time with the family. And her advisor, I guess financial advisor, told her she had $100 million. And she goes, that's enough. I think I'll be okay. And I can step off and take care of my family and be with my family, which kudos to her. They said she was offered $100 million just to do 2 more years. Wow. Of her show, and she turned it down because she wanted to spend time with her kids. She said she just was missing out on everything as the kids were growing up. But I thought, how the hell did she get a... But then I thought she did movies. She had the talk shows. She was on The View. Yeah, $100 million. I'm good for her. I would,
and she might have been a good saver too.
Yeah.
Maybe she didn't spend the money and live up to those kind of Hollywood lifestyle things. But Tim, I'd be happy with 10. I'd be happy with 5.
Yeah.
I think we could have a good life with a couple million, right? You don't need 100.
Well, listen, you start doing the math, right? Look at Lindsey Graham dies at 70, 71, just turned 71. It's not too far away, John.
No. And Sam Neill passed away this week. He played the scientist in Jurassic Park, been in a lot of movies. I think he was 78. So when I look through the obituaries, I do what you do. I look at the date. I look for male, and I look at the age, and I'm like, rarely do I see 90 something, but I usually see 70s to 80s, right?
Yeah. No, it's which leads us to our next story about retirement. So folks, we're going to take a quick break here. Thank you for an excellent business birthday. When we return, as Tim is hinting at, we have a story about home ownership and expectations that people have in their older years about what that home is going to be worth and how to utilize it. So stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. They're all business, except when they're not. It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello and welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here as always with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Learn all about us and find all of our programming at focusgroupradio.com. John teased this article right before we went to a quick break, and John had found this. And the headline is, Retirees Expect Their Home to be a Financial Safety Net. They shouldn't. So they said homeownership has historically been the most common way for families to grow wealth and pass it on. Homeowners aged 70 and older hold $13 trillion with a T in housing wealth, or roughly 1 out of every dollar's worth in the country, according to a March analysis by Redfin, the real estate platform. And they said with the youngest baby boomers now 62, the earliest age for claiming Social Security, many expect that wealth to keep them financially secure as they age, acting as a source of capital to fall back on. But that can be risky, this article says. So is this one of these things, John, where it's you're house rich, or you think you're house rich, or not? Or to kind of complement this, I saw a guy speaking on CNBC several months ago, and he was talking about wealth. And wealth versus, I guess, cash. And he said, wealth is owning a house, but you can't spend it. The wealth is locked up in its value. And but if you had 100,000 in cash, that's an immediate thing you could do something with. So this is definitely wealth locked up until you try to, it's like buying land. You could sit on the land for years, and if you never sell it, then it's like digging a hole, putting money in the dirt and covering it up. I found this article interesting because
I think that there's couple of things in here that were interesting. The Federal Reserve Bank of Philly found that older homeowners, particularly 70 and up, when they do sell the home, they get a lower sale price than their contemporaries would, and the gap increases with age. So, if you're an 80-year-old person, you're likely to get paid 5% less than a 45-year-old would, and a lot of that comes down to home maintenance, deferred maintenance, appliances, and things that, like an example would be appliances, right? Nowadays, Tim has talked about his oven and stove on the air a couple times, KitchenAid, right? We've had to replace most of our appliances in our house upstate, even though the old ones lasted for like 20 some years. And like, take your mom's house. Is her refrigerator new or is it old?
It's, I think I don't know. I think it's old. Now it's old, but I don't remember growing up ever having to replace any of the appliances. Her stove.
No, stove.
The stove was put in, I do remember this, in 1972, and it is still great. It's better than my stove. My mother's gas stove, put in 1972 from Sears, and it is a great gas stove and never had a problem, never had to be serviced. That's the way we always thought it should be, right? From the Depression era grandparents of ours. But
the Depression era was use it up, make it work. Or how does it go? Make it work or do without. Like, basically use something till it just can't be used anymore. And the appliance thing is kind of the thing that caught my eye, because there was a time when people bought appliances in lime green, harvest gold,
almond.
It seems like
black.
You can get away exactly. It seems like you can get away with like stainless steel these days. Seems to that ages. Apparently, that ages very well. It doesn't matter what kind of kitchen it's in. But the crux of the article was, if you do not do maintenance on your home and you're living in it and you're in your retirement years, your late 60s, 70s, or 80s, and you don't do the things you have to do or things you might not want to do because you don't have to. So if your appliances are running fine, why would you replace them? But it turns out that when you sell the house someday, you may have to do these things or accept a lower price that when a buyer comes in and says, I got to do all this stuff. I got to change things around here, right?
Yeah, and they also, so aside from the Harvest Gold refrigerator, which again, I'd been to friends' houses, and I would probably be the same. If I had a Harvest Gold refrigerator and it was still working, and the dishwasher happened to be white or the stove happened to be stainless, that would not bother me. For a lot of people, though, that would bother them, and they'd want to replace everything. I'm more on the side of, it's still working, so it doesn't bother me. And they gave the example then, as you mentioned, of other things within the house. And maybe there was a leak in the roof and there was some water damage, but it's in the corner there, and someday it'll get painted. Or bathrooms are a big one. So when I sold my house in Pennsylvania, I know the bathrooms needed to be redone, but they were perfectly fine. But vintage, they were tiled, they were yellow tiled, yellow and black tile, that old 1960s kind of bathroom tile. And I just never updated it, but I know it affected the price of the house. Had I spent $20,000-$30,000 to redo the bathrooms,
how about more than that?
But maybe I would have got $20,000-$30,000. But I also might have done it in a style somebody didn't like. That's the other thing I think people have to be cautious of. You might spend a lot of money on upgrades, and someone's still going to come in anyway and gut it. There's a house down here in Rehoboth that these two guys had built, and it was magnificent, but over the top, kind of a little over the top with marble and all this stuff. These two women bought it and gutted it. And it was hundreds of thousands. I mean, the amount of money inside that they did with marble and lighting and very mod and deco sort of look to it. These two women wanted none of that. They wanted hardwoods instead of marble. They wanted a different fixtures instead of what they had. And I thought, had I bought that house, I'd have thought, it's perfectly livable. It might not be totally my style, but I'm not sure I would have gutted it. But and that's where they were going here, right? That's where they were going here to say that you might have to sacrifice if you go to sell one of these homes that's been not touched for quite a while, or is still functional, but just not of style. You might not get the money you wanted out of it.
I just remember that I remember that phrase that I learned: use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without.
Do without.
That's right. Depression era. Anyway, you were going to say?
No, so I wondered about this because in some regards, it was almost as if you had equity built up in the house and then you sold it and you went to go rent somewhere, or you got an apartment, or you downsized. I still think that is okay to have relied on your home or your asset for retirement. This is kind of saying, well, you might, if you don't pay attention to some of the upgrades or the operational aspect of getting the house in order, you might not get as much money. But I still think it's a decent asset to have something to buy, don't you? Or have something to own to sell.
I completely agree. And there's one thing that the article did not talk about. So just to finish up what Tim was saying, some older people who own homes don't have the stomach for it, or the stamina, or the financial resources to do a big renovation. I mean, you have to have cash on hand. But like where Tim's house is in Rehoboth, it's a unique part of the country. It's like not even a square mile. Like, how small is Rehoboth?
It's 1 square mile.
1 square mile.
Yeah.
So actually, Tim, it almost doesn't. I've gone to visit Tim, where Tim drives us, does a great tour, by the way. Tim does a great tour of that whole area, but he will point out properties and he'll say that used to be a small house. They took it down and they put up a huge, like they go to the lot lines practically, like a McMansion kind of thing. And then Tim will tell me that was what that sold for. Like, so in some cases, this article, if you live like where we are upstate, or you are down at Rehoboth, it almost doesn't matter because your you're in a zone of high desire, right?
Or there are people that are just buying the land.
Yeah.
Right? You're buying the lot. And similar to where you are, you've got a great location. So people might just say, that's a great house, and but it's not up-to-date modern. We want every bedroom to have its own bathroom, which is what the big thing is now, right? Or we want an open floor plan, or we want a separate media room, or one of these things people want. So you'll buy the land because it's a great location, but we'll take down a perfectly fine house.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is happening. I wonder what's going to happen in so many areas now with people building these developments, and the houses don't seem to be that well made, at least in mine. And I'm wondering how they're going to, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, what happens to these? They're not developments like we knew as kids, where things were a bit more solid. These seem to be kind of slapped together.
Here's an example from Manhattan. I have a friend who was the president of his co-op board. He bought an apartment in a building that was literally brand new. And by the 5th year of living there, they were 3 days. They had 3 days. So the contractor who built the building, or the developer, gives you a warranty. I never knew this before. 3 days before the expiration of the warranty, they filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the developer because almost everything in the building was substandard material. I don't know how it got done. They have sidewalks to repair. They have to take steel beams out of people's apartments. There's cracked floors from settling uneven stuff. Imagine that. So brand new construction. You are now on the hook for a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, and if you're an owner, you have no choice but to deal with this and pay the money. And as Tim said, if it's a new house and something goes wrong, well, may not be different than an old house. I would just say this: home ownership is not a zero-cost game. You don't buy your house and sit in it and wait to leave it to somebody else for the same amount or more than you paid for it. You have to put money in, and I worry about it because, Tim, when you had like a really bad storm down there, did anything hit the roof? I know that
Yeah, we just had the roof. We had a new roof put on, and then with that blizzard, we had some large limbs fall on the roof
from the pine trees.
Right. The roofer says it was okay, so I'll take his word for it. I've not climbed up there. But
you're like us. We have white pine trees near our house, and you look up at a white pine tree. It's like, oh, it's a nice branch. When that branch falls, then you get the true scale of it, and they're heavy. They're heavy because they're filled with sap, the whole bit. They can do a lot of damage. So we had to have a well pump replaced recently. I thought it was a couple $100. It was $2,300. So I mentioned it to our neighbor next door who came over to cut up some logs for us that fell in a storm we had recently. And I mentioned the price. He didn't even wait. He goes, oh, no, John, those days are long gone. The days of a couple $100 fix to your home. No. It's all gone. Never coming back. And Todd's in his 70s. He goes, never coming back.
Same with cars, right? You can't get away with under $1,000. It's I don't know. The world's gone crazy, John.
Well, I'm just glad that we're now the guardians of the Strait of Hormuz. So, I'm very glad that our guardianship has begun on an area that never had to be guarded before.
Or what was it that the Treasury Secretary called it? Scott Bessent. He called it the Strait of Vermouth. Have you seen that clip?
No, and I would believe it.
No, he really
did.
Right? The Strait of Vermouth, and someone said, "Whoa. Strait of Vermouth. It's her, the Strait of Vermouth."
I remember when his name was put up as Treasury Secretary, and everybody was, "Oh, he's a great guy," and "Oh, he happens to be gay." But the way they all collapse like a house of cards or a cheap suit to toe the narrative of whatever's going on, like Trump still thinks affordability is a hoax. Yeah. Go to the grocery store. I told Tim before we started today, a chocolate bar that I used to buy at our local Hannaford's used to be $3.19. 1 week later, it's $4.44. Where does that come from? I mean, it literally changes your shopping pattern down to, I'm going to eat less chocolate. And you're doing less coffee now, right?
Well, coffee's gone crazy, but everything's crazy. We went out to dinner and it was, to go out to dinner
I don't even
somewhere.
Look anymore. A lunch could be $70. A lunch where you had
easy.
A Cobb salad and a glass of iced tea, and you're like, what? Yeah.
Well, you and I would go to the TikTok diner. This was before the pandemic. How much was our lunch? Our lunch was $60, wasn't it? I got a salad. You always got eggs. I got a salad.
Scrambled. It used to be more like 45 or 50.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
But still,
and
for a salad and 2 eggs.
The Croton was a pretty good deal.
That was a treat.
The Cobb's. Yeah.
That chocolate brownie, that hot chocolate brownie sundae
with
was
walnuts
very good.
and whipped cream.
That's my favorite dessert.
That waiter knew us so well that when we walked into the Croton, this is when Tim and I were on Sirius, we would walk down to Penn Station afterwards. He would go south, I'd go north, and we would stop at this place found called the Croton Reservoir. It's a cute little restaurant tavern. And the waiter there knew us so well that when we walked in, he literally was putting the order in as we sat down because he knew we got the same thing all the time. Yep. And then he would surprise us. He usually gave us the brownie. We gave him socks, I think, right?
Oh, yeah, they got socks.
He got socks.
That was a good place. Is it still there?
Oh, yes. Yes, it's a reliable place. We've eaten there several times. They did remodel. We used to sit up on that little area that was raised. Yep. They got rid of that. It's all one floor now, but it's still there. It's right near Bryant Park.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this article, I think Tim and I both talked about the same thing from different angles. If you are a homeowner and if you are planning on living in your house until you can sell it to move to a different situation, it's critical to make sure that you're maintaining certain aspects of it. Don't defer maintenance. If there's any water damage or things that has to get done like that, do that. Appliances, I think we're putting a question mark in front of because some people just want their own things anyways. But you are right about kitchens and bathrooms are big, big things. I don't even know these days if I did a kitchen over how neutral I could make it to make it sellable. But if you're counting on your home as a source of retirement cash, make sure you are maintaining it and paying attention to what other things in the neighborhood are selling for. Is that a good summation, Mr. Benham?
That's perfect. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
All right.
It could have been a 30-second shop talk. Right?
We're going to wrap it up there, folks. Thank you for joining us here on the Focus Group. We know you have many podcasts to choose from. We are very happy that you spend time with me and Tim. FocusGroupRadio.com is our website. You could check us out there, and you'll learn about our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned. And I like to say, or Tim coined this long time ago, don't text and drive, arrive alive, and especially in summertime. My God, what we see on the roads. What passes as driving. Our instructors would have killed us. Anyway, have a good one, folks. We want to see you here next week on the Focus Group.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.